the recommendation by the National Assembly Joint Committee on Constitutional Review for an additional state for the Southeast is Kenneth Okonkwo, a lawyer, and he was recently elected into the National Working Committee, NWC, of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, as national ex-officio by the party's National Executive Committee. He will also share his thoughts on the adoption of provisions to transmit elections electronically and also the impact of Nigeria exiting the FATF crime watch list. Good morning, Kenneth Okonkwo, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo. And good morning, viewers, for joining us. What a beautiful day.
Okay, I'm not quite sure you will have enough time to deal with all the issues that have been raised, but we will try our best to take the issues one by one, and you can just speak to the ones that you think are more important for you. Congratulations on your being elected into the National Working Committee of the ADC. Let's start with this creation of states.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there are some of us who are of the opinion that we don't need more states, whether in the Southeast or elsewhere, nor do we need more local governments. We already have 774 local governments. We have 36 local states of the Federation. Now, people are talking about balancing equity and all that. But the states that we have are not even viable. Do you support the idea that we need to increase bureaucracy, increase the number of states, increase the number of local governments, and what will be the justification for that? That's one point. And then what do you think? Because all of this is under the rubric of preparations for 2027, electoral reform. Now the Senate is saying, oh, the burden of proof should be on INEC and not on the litigants. Now, what do you also think of that? Because usually the presumption of innocence or regularity, which is the technical word, is always on the side of INEC. But some people are now saying, no, INEC has to prove that it conducted elections properly, and it will have to answer questions with regard to how election is managed. Those two to start with from me.
Oh, well, with the issue of state creation, I'm glad that you brought up the issue of what is the justification for the creation of additional state in the Southeast. Let me first of all thank the Nigerian Federation for understanding that there is an injustice that needs to be corrected. And I love the nationalistic approach towards the creation of the additional state in the Southeast. It was a Senator Abdul Ningi from Bauchi Central that moved the motion, and this was supported by Honorable Ibrahim Isiaka from Ogun State. That is a very good handshake across the Niger, vertically and horizontally, and this will conduce to the peace and development of Nigeria. The Southeast, obviously, will feel very, very happy about this development, that the entire Nigeria has recognized the injustice and they are working towards ameliorating it. Like you said, the justification is that there is an injustice. There are 6 geopolitical zones, and the Southeast has 5, while the others have 6, and one has even 7. And in a nation where, unfortunately, the Constitution made it that the basis of sharing the revenue, sharing posts, depends on the more local governments, the more states that you have. So you see, like in Section 147, subsection 2, where the ministers of the Federation are shared according to the number of states in the Federation. Automatically, you have shortchanged the Southeast when you give them 5 states, when some other geopolitical zones are having 7. That is why I agree with Senator Ali Ndume when he said that this is a long overdue act of fairness and justice. So it's about fairness, equity, and justice. That's the justification. The Southeast should take a cue and also ensure that they have a consolidated, peaceful approach to also choosing one state from amongst themselves. This time around, Adada State with the capital in Nsukka, because of the ancient and modern contribution of Nsukka to Nigeria. Remember, the university town was built there around 1960, and they've been clamoring for Adada State, made up of Nsukka local government, Iweze North and South, Udenu local government, Isi Uzo, and Ozowani. And this is an ancient and modern community with agrarian superpower power. You hear about Ose Nsukka, you hear about the weather of Nsukka, where Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe lived all his life because of how convivial and how accommodating the town is. So Southeast should narrow it down to Adada State and make sure that they are united, even as the entire Nigeria is united in granting them this Southeast. But let me point out, Ruben Abati, you are correct that we should also be thinking about viability. After consolidating the justice and fairness, we must also redesign our polity to ensure true federalism, to ensure fiscal federalism. And when you do that, the agitation for more states will evaporate. Before 1966, recall there were 4 regions in Nigeria. The South had 3. And the North, despite their population, despite their landmass, had 1. And they were not crying about marginalization. And the reason is because the basis of sharing of the revenue, the basis of sharing the revenue is derivation. And when it's derivation, as you earn, that is what you receive. And this encourages productivity and not consumption. But now that they changed it, and it becomes the number of states and local government that you have, this will encourage people to begin to demand for more states, begin to demand for local government, because you are now basing your revenue sharing based on consumption, not on productivity. And this is actually going to weigh us down. So after the amelioration of the injustice, where the Southeast would have 1 state to measure up, we should now be talking about redesigning our revenue sharing formula to encourage productivity and not consumption. And you will not hear any section demanding for any state, because viability will become the basis of creating additional states or local government, as it was before the Civil War, before the 1966 coup. Our first republic organized themselves on the basis of physical federalism. And through federalism, where derivation is the basis of revenue sharing.
Your point is clear. But I also
moving forward.
The other question about electoral reform.
Go ahead.
And the responsibility of
yes,
INEC,
the electoral
burden
reform,
of proof.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank God that we have a new INEC chairman. I wish him well. The basis of the development of Nigeria depends on free, fair, credible election. I tell you the truth. If we have free, fair, credible election, we won't even be talking about cases going to court. We are the most litigious nation on earth because we are not doing things according to the law. If you recall, 2007 was the most terrible election. And we had about more than 86% of cases going to court. And when you got to 2011, because of the reforms, it came down. And in 2015, it came down. It started rising again in 2019 and 2023. So the more fraudulent elections you have, the more cases you have in court. And I agree that the burden of proving regularity of election should be on INEC. And this is because of the frustration that petitioners always have. They cannot access the documents to prove their case. They do not have the right personnel because you'll be expected to provide pulling. I was a member of the presidential legal team during the 2023 election. Do you know INEC was subpoenaed many times to provide the original from EC8A in court, and it did not come to court today. They simply came and said he was not there. And because the burden to prove is on the petitioner, if he does not prove it, his petition collapses. Right. But when INEC has the burden to prove, they will now be compelled to bring all the documents to court. It will make something more efficient. It will make it easier. And then Section 137 of the Electoral Act will be reactivated, whereby we are the documents, when the documents are fully produced, and then the court can just look at it. And if the petitioner now has anything to oppose, he will oppose. And decision will be made faster, quicker, and more efficient. So I agree that the burden of proof should be on INEC. INEC, you conducted the election. INEC, you have the documents. INEC, you have the personnel. INEC, you have the everything. And you are saying that you did the right thing. Come to court and prove it. It is a nice thing. Then when we talk about our electoral reforms, we are talking about electronic transmission of results, making it mandatory and compulsory. In all honesty, in our Electoral Act already that we have, I believe that we have sufficient sections to ensure that we have electronic transmission of results. We have Section 47.2 that made the use of card reader compulsory in catching the accredited voters. And you say without it, you don't have election. That's electronic recording and storage of information. You have Section 62 that said immediately after the election, you transmit to a national electronic register of election results, pulling in it by pulling in it. And whoever wants a copy, you give him to prove his case. These are all there. And you have Section 64.4.5, where they say you need the electronic transmitted result to use for collation. And INEC in its regulations made it mandatory. But unfortunately, the court said it's discretionary.
My next question is
so we need to, reinforce our Electoral Act to make sure that we make it compulsory electronically, so unequivocal, so that the courts will not have any excuse.
Thank you. You have spoken very well. Now I can come in to ask a question. Thank you so much, Mr. Okonkwo. Going back to you, though, it's just two questions I have for you very quickly. We can be brief, please. The first is around the, the creation of a new state, and to your argument that what we should be speaking about more is on revenue allocation and the basis on which it is distributed among states. And you already said it, that's the reason why the current formula is the reason why there are more agitations for states, because it's not only the southeastern states. In the southwest, they're also asking for new states as well, and other parts. Should this advocacy be more along the lines of revenue allocation or distribution of revenue, so that we're able to fix the problem once and for all, rather than going to one corner, we create one state, then we now begin to talk about a reorganizing of the way that revenue is allocated? The second question then would be around this electronic transmission of results. Like you rightly said, the provision was already made for, was made for in the electoral reform of 2022. However, implementation was the challenge. What would be different if we have an electoral reform to strengthen this, if there's no political will or even the will from INEC to do the right thing? And do we have the infrastructure to support it when we talk about, data, network connectivity and the likes? Because that could very well be cited as a reason why it would not work.
Yes, like I said before, the whole idea of one more state for the Southeast is because of equity and justice. That is the justification. And that is what they said. And that was why they narrowed it down to one state for the Southeast. And then they said after that, they will begin to consider other requests. And that is why I'm saying that if you restructure Nigeria to have fiscal federalism, whereby revenue sharing will be based on derivation, nobody will ask for more state. You know why? Because more state will be a burden to you, because you are increasing the cost of governance without additional revenue coming to you. But people are asking for more states because the more states you have, the more revenue you have. So when equity and justice have been done, by creating one more state in the Southeast, I belong to that category that will say that viability should be the basis to create more states. We're not talking about viability in the issue of one more state for the Southeast. We're talking about equity and justice, because Southeast has 5 states and other geopolitical zones have 6 and even 7. So, having settled that, I agree with you that our attitude must change before we talk about enforcing our laws. We have enough laws already that will guarantee us free, fair, credible, periodic election and verifiable. Was it not INEC that invented IREF portal? Was it not INEC that sabotaged the same IREF portal in 2023 and said it was technical glitch? When JAMB had technical glitch, they cancelled the exams and ordered the students to retake it. When INEC under Professor Mahmoud Yakubu had technical glitch, they continued announcing technically glitched results and told people to go to court. This is attitude. I agree with you. The first thing we have to hammer on and plead with this new INEC chairman is that there should be attitudinal change. No matter the amount of laws that you amend without the right attitude, without competence, and without operating a corrupt-free agency, you will still have the same problem. So we change our attitude. Of course, we need electoral reforms in order not to give room for the courts to come again and say it is discretionary on INEC to transmit election electronically. Let me remind us, according to Joseph Stalin, those who vote decide nothing. Okay. Those who count the vote decide everything. Okay. Our problem in elections has always been in collation, where people are counting it. And the whole idea of electronic transmission of results is to have electronically generated results that you will use to compare with the manually generated results to ensure, to verify their correctness, so that people do not inflate results during collation. So we need electronically transmitted results, and we have to firmly entrench it in the Electoral Act so that the courts will not say it's discretionary. It's mandatory.
Real quickly, we've not seen any momentum from the ADC in a while. What's happening? Is it that momentum is waning? The second question is, a spokesperson of the party recently spoke to the fact that Governor Soludo in Anambra State was promising people that can win APGA their ward or their units, they're going to give them some money, voter inducement. What's your take on that?
You see, like I keep saying about our laws, vote buying, voter inducement, it's a criminal offense by our Electoral Act. But you ask yourself how many people have been prosecuted. You ask yourself how many people have been brought to account, even in open cases, brazen cases of vote buying. It's unfortunate. It is happening in Anambra State. It's happening across Nigeria. It is the duty of INEC to ensure that such people are brought to justice. It is the duty of the security agencies. We are lacking in implementation of our laws, implementation and enforcement. We must have to change our attitude. So such action is illegal, it is criminal, and should be brought to justice. Now, as you rightly pointed out, ADC is on fire. The only thing is that we have an APC that is using every method to intimidate and scatter the plans of the opposition. Recall, in Kaduna State, ADC wanted to meet, and they were scattered by thugs. Recall, in Lagos, when Roadsvival wanted to have meeting of the ADC, they were scattered by thugs under the supervision of the security agency. In Ekiti State, APC again went in to scatter ADC when they are having their correct meeting. According to the Electoral Act, the security agency is meant to provide security for any party that wants to organize any rally or meeting. Equally amongst all the political parties. Now, APC is jittery. ADC is going to form the next government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We are strategizing, and we are going to beat this APC. They are already imploding. I made
Thank
it
you
clear
so
that
much,
APC
Mr.
was
Okonkwo.
going to implode.
All right.
Because